What is going on, guys? So yesterday I gave you my top 10 MCU heroes. So I'm going to go the other way today and give you the top 10 MCU villains. Now this isn't by power, this is just the way I think that they kind of fleshed out, made you feel an emotion or made you feel during the movie or movies that they are in. So it is not about how powerful they are. It is just about the way the actor did, the way the character was approached, and what happened in their respective movies. So to kick it off, at number 10 is Helmut Zemo. And the reason is, there's no special powers, there's none of that, but he is the villain in Civil War. And to get all of the Avengers to basically start fighting each other, I think takes an incredible amount of skill and intelligence. Plus, I really enjoyed that movie. That was the first big collaborative movie that they did with like 12 or 14. I know the Avengers was already out and things of that nature, but they had like 14 of them together. So that's why I think he had that character is in the top 10 of the MCU villains so far. And it's not because of special abilities or anything. It is the fact that he got them to fight each other. And he knew, he was no match for them, but if he could make them turn on themselves. And he did. So that was for a small time at least. So that was why I've got him at number 10 in the MCU top 10 villains. Number 9 is going to be from Shang-Chi. It is Wen-Wu. So not the great darkness that is behind the wall. They didn't get a whole lot of screen time. So that one didn't feel right to me. That didn't feel like the main antagonist. Wen-Wu did. The original guy who had the 10 rings, Shang-Chi's father. That one made it feel, you felt for the dad, but you also knew, like, man, he's obsessed with one thing, but he was driven by the death of a loved one and all these kind of things. So it made you feel, it gave you emotions to things, and that's why I've got him at 9. Also, the 10 Rings made him incredibly powerful. He was 1,000 years old. So I really enjoyed Shang-Chi, and that is a reason why, is because that character had so much depth into what was his motivation in being the antagonist. So to me, he's the main antagonist, not the big bad at the end of the movie, but Wen-Wu is the dad. Number 8 is relatively new. It's from Wakanda Forever. This is a little bit of a spoiler alert, so if you haven't seen that yet, you may want to skip through this one, but the main antagonist is Namor here. He's great. They brought in another kind of villain that we don't really have a whole lot of information about. I know you can get it from the comics and all those things, but just as a casual viewer for the MCU, you don't really know a ton about him, and they really delve into his history, his culture, what did everything. And it was a pretty great concept that they brought from the comics into the MCU that I enjoyed. The actor did a great job. The movie as a whole, or the film as a whole, is spectacular, so did want to give that nod for sure. I think the Wakanda series is the only one that has 2 villains on here, so that one, I just really enjoyed the depiction that the actor gave, the way the writers gave it to him, and the story that was told from him. Plus, it's super interesting way that they figure out on how to beat him. So spoiler there, they do end up figuring out a way to take down his power, but it takes a while. So number 7, going from a nostalgia standpoint, is Green Goblin. They brought him into the MCU in Spider-Man No Way Home. Hopefully you guys have watched that one. It is awesome, and William Dafoe does such a great job as that character, and the fact that he wanted to be in on the action, he didn't want to just be like a cameo in the movie, shows his dedication. It gives me a new level of respect for him, especially almost 20 years ago is when they started the Green Goblin, and when he reprised that role for this movie, he went all in, and he does that split personality that character so much justice. I love watching him act as that character. Not to mention, another spoiler alert, anybody that is strong enough to take out Aunt May, man, that just tugs at your heartstrings. So you got to give him props for being a big villain, especially coming back. And then, the moral redemption that you get from the Peter Parkers to not kill him. That was a special moment in that movie, and was a real growing up experience for Tom Holland's Peter. So, fantastic. 6 is going to be Ultron. He was in the movie, in the one movie, Avengers Age of Ultron. And that was one of the first ones where they took something that honestly you would be worried about today. Somebody taking over and using the internet and just using this kind of mechanical process that I think we've touched on in film a number of times. I know iRobot was one where the machines kind of think for themselves, and Ultron did that, but he brought personality to it. He brought all these things. And again, it was one of those collaborative movies where you have to have a pretty strong character as an antagonist to make that movie work, and they absolutely did with Ultron. And knowing that was just a voiceover character kind of added to that. So voiceover, I think, is more difficult, not knowing that you're in there, not knowing what the animatronics or the animation is going to look like from the CGI, and still being able to convey that. It's pretty great. So I commend that movie, the producers, and the voice actor for Ultron. But he did only make one movie. Obviously, they beat him and took what was going to be his body made out of vibranium and made the Vision. So that was kind of a one and done for Ultron, but a great character nonetheless. At 5 is going to be Hela. That kind of came out, and the reason I have her so high is I think back to one scene that made you realize how strong she was and how intense the movie was going to be, was when she caught Mjolnir and broke it. She broke Thor's hammer at the beginning, or in the first 20 minutes of the movie, and you're sitting there going, whoa, wait a minute. So it invoked that emotional feel from you. You were on the edge of your seat in the movie theater. You were like, what is going on? How are they going to do this? And then the conclusion to that being what it was in Ragnarok was great. So I think that was one where you realize Thor and Loki together were not going to be able to defeat this, and the way they get to defeating Hela was interesting, and it showed a little bit of humanity, a little bit of nerfed Thor's power a bit, knowing that there was a way to beat her, but it wasn't just sheer force. So I think it was just sincerely that one scene that made you go, oh crap, and you continue through the entire movie going, what is going to happen? I mean, anybody that just picks up Mjolnir not only picks it up, but breaks the hammer, we're in for a wild ride, and you were. Ragnarok turned out to be a fantastic film in the Thor series, and they needed that redemption after The Dark World was not well received. Ragnarok, spectacular, loved the film. 4 is going to be Scarlet Witch. Now, this is not from the original. This is from the last one she was in, which is Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. And it's hard for audiences to look at somebody we've grown accustomed to and seen on the good side turn bad, and they did that with Scarlet Witch. They did it well. The acting was superb. But not only that, it was the storyboarding, the way we got to where we were going, and her motivation that really got you going, man, this is, not to mention she's incredibly powerful, and I think she has messed up Doctor Strange for good, even though he did prevail in the movie. I think she's put him on a different path as well, so we'll see if we get another good turn bad story in Doctor Strange. I'm interested to see that. So, but she's very powerful, the acting was great, and to get audiences to go, no, you've rooted for her for multiple films now, and we're going to turn her. I think that's what puts her at 4 for me, is to give you that kind of, back and forth inside going, man, I've enjoyed the character, I've done this, but I can't believe she's doing it, but I understand why she's doing it, I just don't want her to, and those kinds of things. So Scarlet Witch at 4. Number 3 is going to be Killmonger. I loved this character because he's driven by the death of his father, getting back to his roots, and he outsmarts T'Challa for the vast majority of the movie, ends up beating T'Challa, taking over the mantle as King of Wakanda, and it's not something that was just totally outlandish or wild for him to want to do, want to get the power, want to right the wrongs as he sees them. So Killmonger was greatly written, a spectacular character for the MCU entirety. And I've said in videos before that the movies Black Panther were movements, they weren't films. And to have an antagonist make that much sense to where you're sitting there going, man, I don't want to see T'Challa lose, but I understand where Killmonger's come from, and get the audience to really weigh in and of themselves, what's going on, what the motivation is. That's a special thing to do. So that's why I've got Killmonger at 3. One of the stronger films. He's the stronger antagonist to me, and that's why I've got him so high. It was really great. Michael B. Jordan did a spectacular job as well. Really strong presence from him. He looked the part. He was the part. He really enveloped what Killmonger was going to be, and he knocked it out of the park. So Killmonger at 3. 2 is going to be Loki, and the reason is he is a bad guy that goes multiple movies. He is a strong enough character to toe the line between good and bad. He's very bad at being good, but he does do good things, and he's very good at being bad, and yes, he does bad things. Obviously, the main antagonist in the original Avengers. So, to be able to take that character, spread it out over multiple films, and then you root for Loki on one hand, and then the very next minute you're sitting there going, why are you doing this? So, that's why he is such a strong villain in the MCU, is because he continually does it over multiple films, and pulls the good guy card here and then immediately stabs somebody in the back, and then does this and does that. Not to mention, does the standalone series on Disney Plus, just Loki, and it's pretty great. Like, I thought the standalone series Loki itself was a solid representation of what everything was going to be. Plus, he gets to be an alligator in a different universe, which is hilarious. So he brings mischief, he brings humor, he brings villainy, he brings so many things to the table that you feel that. And I think audiences radiate with the character that way. It's because of what he brings to the table. So Tom Hiddleston, shout out, bringing Loki completely full circle. Enjoy it. Loki 2 is up on the docket pretty soon, so keep your eye out for that. And number 1 is an easy one. It was 1, and then the rest is going to be Thanos. It took 22 movies to get to the culmination of what Thanos was, what he was going to be, and to see that final battle. So Josh Brolin wearing the helmet, doing all that stuff, filming, becoming Thanos was great. But not only that, it took us on an emotional ride for a decade. And we didn't know. We would get glimpses in post-credit scenes and this and that. But when it finally comes around and we know what's going to go on in Infinity War and Endgame, he's going after the Infinity Stones, what happens, all those things. He is the big bad so far in the MCU. Now, do they come up with characters that are already in the comics that we know are stronger? Sure. But as it stands, Thanos is the big bad in the MCU, has been the big bad in the MCU, and again, any character that we build up for almost a decade and go through that many films to get to that culmination, he's the one. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. That is the ranking of my top 10 MCU villains. Love watching the films. I've been at the opening weekend of every MCU film, I think since Iron Man 2, or maybe it was the Avengers. I'm not sure, but I've been at a lot of opening weekends. So your top one is going to be Thanos. If you like this kind of stuff, if you disagree, if you do agree, leave a comment below, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. We've got a contest going on right now for new subscribers, available to win a gift card. All you have to do is be a new subscriber and let me be able to see that you have newly subscribed to the channel, and you're entered to win. You have a chance to win. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time. Fam Jam, I'm out.